What is the state of the nation? Is it found in speeches and plans, or in the trust between leaders and the people? Each year the nation gathers to hear words of direction, purpose made clear, promises spoken, visions defined, leadership measured by action and time. So tell us, leaders, what is the state
of the nation entrusted to you to shape? Is it guided by duty, strengthened by truth?
The answer lives in responsibility to the people. Power is granted, not owned outright, held in trust and returned to the light. History remembers not words alone, but the care with which authority is shown.
Leadership is about taking responsibility,
not making excuses. The nation listens, the mandate is clear, to lead with honesty, courage, and care.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. Tonight we're going to be discussing or analyzing President Boakai's State of the Nation address. As you may recall, President Joseph Newman Boakai's 2026 State of the Nation address presents an administration focused on stabilization, institutional reform, and measured delivery under the Arrest Agenda for Inclusive Development. The president highlighted improved macroeconomics indicators, stronger revenue performance, reduced inflation, growing reserves, and increased exports, while acknowledging Liberia's continuing vulnerability to external shocks and donor dependence. He emphasized governance reforms, anti-corruption efforts, and a robust legislative agenda aimed at strengthening state institutions alongside notable investments in roads, energy, health, education, and social protection. The address also underscored Liberia's renewed international standing, including election to the UN Security Council, and took a significant moral stance on national reconciliation and accountability for past conflicts. Overall, the SONA signals a sober technocratic presidency prioritizing stability and system building, with success ultimately hinging on effective implementation and sustained political will. Tonight, I have with me to discuss and analyze President Boakai's State of the Nation address, Dr. Clarence Pearson, who is our neo-progressive commentator, author, and pastor. Welcome, Dr. Pearson.
Thank you, Dennis, for having me. It's a pleasure being on the show tonight. I want to say hi to Gabriel and our viewers and listeners out there. Thanks for having me tonight, Dennis.
Thank you. Let me also welcome Mr. Gabriel Tabito Kato. He's our global banking and finance expert. Welcome, Gabriel.
Dennis, it's good to be here. It's good to be on this panel with Dr. Pearson and be able to dissect this State of the Nation. I know there was a lot that was said, so hopefully we have enough time to go through everything here. But it's good to be here to, offer my opinion on this State of the Nation. Thank you.
Thank you. What is the State of the Nation according to you and according to President Boakai? And we're going to be looking at it from the delivery, from everything, his plan, what has happened, and everything in between. off the bat, before I want to bring in the at least snippet of the State of the Nation, but let me ask you your initial thoughts going into the State of the Nation address, and what did you come up with? Just for 1 minute. Let me start with you, Dr. Pearson. Your opening.
Thank you, Venice. I think the State of the Nation, an annual presentation of the President of the Republic of Liberia, is an important part of our governance structure, where citizens are given the opportunity to see what the president's mind is at in terms of where he's coming from over the past year and where he's intending to go. So far, I think the State of the Nation was a great presentation, but the meat of the entire speech has a lot of false representation and some realities, and those are some of the things we want to be looking at more critically tonight.
And what did you expect going into the State of the Nation address, and did you find that?
I expected a lot, especially with the geopolitical shift, with aid being reduced globally and continue to be reduced around the world, and we being an aid-dependent country. I would have thought to see the president outline those economic strategies that he has to ensure that Liberia becomes vibrant when it comes to its economic repositioning and its geopolitical shifting in terms of alignment. I didn't see much of that, even though I heard a lot of rhetoric on other issues.
Thank you. Let me go to Gabriel.
Hey, Dennis, going into the State of the Nation, your expectations should have been predicated on what happened in the previous year, right? So if you're going into the State of the Nation, you have to look back as to some of the accomplishment of the president and his administration. So that will be able to give you a glimpse of hope in terms of what will be presented at the State of the Nation. But, based on what we've seen so far over the last year, I knew exactly what we should have expected. I didn't expect it to be this embellished as it was, on a national stage. Most of the policy items that the president talked about, I believe, were, kind of too embellished in terms of some of the accomplishment. And I think at the end of the day, knowing exactly the kind of presidency he inherited, the administration he inherited, this is a divided country, whether we want to believe it or not. So I believe that, ability to offer hope, unity, for the country should have been something that he touched on as well, in addition to, espousing some of his economic plans and that he talked about as well. I think at the end, he's supposed to, kind of unite the country. So that's what I'd expected. But as I said earlier, this was a lot more embellishment and a lot of fluffs and without any substance. So I'm excited to dive into this as we go further. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take a look at the president delivering the State of the Nation.
Our experience shows the need for these procedures to avoid arbitrary practices and conflicting expectations during periods of transition. Also, pending before you are the bills to establish Civil Service Commission and the Third Amendment to the Mineral Development Agreement with Aslam itself Holdings, among others. Delays in passing these.
All right, that was the president. Just a brief, just to see how. So from delivery, from the scene and everything, let's start from there. How was the president, his presentation, his overall, the area that we looking at? Gabriel, what was it like to you? Let's describe, the physical atmosphere.
And Dennis, this is I think I was sharing with someone else in prior to coming on the show. This was the worst State of the Nation that I've seen, especially from the delivery standpoint. It seemed as if you just woke the president, with all due respect, as if you just woke up the president, put the paper in front of him, and told him to read what you put in front of him. As you just played, as if he couldn't even pronounce the words that he was reading, right? As if he was counting words on the paper, right? So the delivery, from the delivery standpoint, it was horrible. Like I say this all the time. When you are presenting something, you're talking to somebody who is passionate about what they're presenting. First, you will see the excitement in their eyes, right? In their tone, you hear that from their tone. But this president, I don't think he knew what he was reading. I think it was just a presentation that was just written, given to him. I don't think he had the time to review it. So you could tell from the presentation that he was clueless about what he was reading. It was just an exercise put in front of him to read. So from a delivery standpoint, this was the worst presentation. I yield.
Dr. Pearson.
Thank you, Dennis. I think like I don't expect, or I didn't expect what I would say an expert reading or an articulation from the president. The president Trump would say beautiful English from the president. I didn't expect that. I know that on the overall, a lot of Liberians have issues with reading. I was more focused towards the president not fainting, or having any kind of biological or health matters on that podium. And I think he held up to the task. He was able to drive through his points to the end of the speech with no incidents. So I gave him thumbs up for that. And I hope next time we'll see a similar what I call it, tenacity to stand up to the task and end it well. So we didn't have any emergency today. That's a good thing for me.
I mean, that's setting the bar so low, Dr. Pearson.
It is.
Well, well, listen, Dennis, I got other areas that I'm more particular about than the president's pronunciation. It means from Lofa. President Barack from Lofa. If I hear the pronunciation is not clear, I'm not worried about that. And I don't expect much energy because of his age. I wouldn't expect a lot of energy from the president because of his age. That too, I wouldn't want to mention that. But I mean, there are many factors that will impact the presentation. So I'm just concerned about his health, and I'm glad and I'm happy, and I'm thankful to God that his health is in good shape. He was able to hold up to the podium until the end of the speech.
Yeah, I mean, what I observe is that, like you said, the low energy, and which I don't blame the president, is like people that are managing the president, right? If we know that the president is speaking, in very low tone, why don't we, pump up the volume?
The volume,
right?
bring the mic closer.
The microphone so that we can hear the president clearly, that you don't have to. And then I'm not the best when it comes to dress code, but I thought the president, what he was wearing should stand out. I wouldn't advise, but it was, looking at it on video, appeared too casual to me. I mean, Gabriel, you eat Blaze. Well, how you look at the president, the physical appearance. I'm not saying wear a suit, but I thought something should be a little more than that.
Yeah, and again, Dennis, this is something that will, and I'm glad you pointed that out. This is something that will remain in the archive on the internet for generations, for history to pick up on. People that want to go invest in the country, when they go look at the country, these are things that they will see. You see a president giving a state of the nation. This is not any occasion. This is the state of the nation. You're addressing your constituent, your citizen, of your accomplishment, ambitions, and what have you, right? Be a little bit more presentable. We're not asking you to be all flamboyant in terms of how you dress, but presidential. This is why you're the president. If there's any time you should be presidential, it's not just going to international trips, but when you're presenting your fellow constituent, your fellow citizens, do that. Present yourself. This is as I said, sometimes we want to yell on the age, we give them grace on the age, but you have to do better, man. We have to do better as a country. This is our president, all of us. This is a reflection of all of us, to put it that way.
Yeah. Right. Let's look at the structure of the State of the Union, State of the Nation. I think, to me, the president actually fulfilled what he should, came out to do. Where we've been, where we are now, and where we're going. He laid that out clearly. Did you see that also, Dr. Pearson?
Thank you, Dennis. Let me mention the dress code quickly. Now I'll go to the question you just asked. I think the president was well attired. He was in his traditional dress, and that for us that will represent our cultural representation. So I don't think the president must wear, especially coming from Lofa County, from Foya. I don't think he should be in coat and tie to be considered presentable. If he has his African shirt on, I think, in his trousers, I think it's okay with me. Okay, that's my opinion, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but you kept mentioning Lofa, right? I don't think there's anything about, and you are saying, it's from Foya. Doesn't that appear? I don't want you to be, I don't want you to be, or I don't
I
want to
think
be.
the President Boka is one of those who's very proud of where he's from. If you ask
No,
President Boka,
but you are saying
he from Foya,
you don't
Lofa
expect
County.
certain things from him because he's from Foya.
I
That's what I
expect
don't want people to come up with.
I expect a certain culture from him, from Foya. That's what I just
Right.
said. So he had a traditional dress and he's
No,
from Foya.
right,
If
but
you're
that's
But
from
what
you're
I'm
not just the
saying.
president for FOIA. You're the president for the Republic of Liberia, not just for
And
FOIA.
Dr. Pearson, I'm not talking coat, I'm not talking suit, right? But if you're doing African attire, you will have the hat on, right? That hat. Because I'm a cultural guy, right? Because if we have our African hat when we put on the African attire. But if you put on like face cap or anything like that, in culturally is considered disrespectful if I have a hat on my head and talking to my elders, right? Dr. Pearson, let's jump in the culture.
So again, I restate here carefully that President Boka is from Lofa County, from Foya. He's a traditional man, and he's wearing a traditional dress. Is okay by me. That's part of his culture. If he came from Harper, Maryland County, and you were wearing kosu with lapa on it, I would still honor that because it reflects the adapted culture from Harper City. So let me go back to this. Whether the hat is an offense, I do not know how culture differ across Liberia. So Dennis, maybe it might be an insult from your own side. It may not be an insult from Harper, Maryland County, where I wear a hat like that, with my coat suit and my lapa, right? All right, call it pupa. And then we talk, and we don't take our hat from our heads when we're talking. So
Where
again, culture
where do you
with
talk?
people. So let me go back to the meat of the
No,
question
no,
you
no, I
asked.
want to jump to the culture because where do you talk when you have hat on your head, or who you talk to normally? What kind of meeting?
Dennis, what I'm saying to you, if I were at a meeting and I'm maybe on a podium standing there and I have my hat on my head, I won't take it off to talk. Maybe that's how I want to present myself. If it's offensive to you, then a different situation altogether. But he doesn't see it to be offensive. So I wouldn't question what he finds offensive on his part. He is the chief elder in the room. If you wanted to talk about elder, he's the chief elder in the room. All right, so let me go to the question you asked me, Dennis. So I think yes, he did satisfy the format of what the SONA should be like. He mentioned what he did in the past and what he has in the foreseeable future. So yes, you are right on that, and I side with you that the president did have the format correct. Whether the meat and the substance of the presentation is another thing that we'll look into.
Thank you. So let's look at the meat, background and content. So a period of inherited fiscal fragility and donor dependency, the Arson attack, Liberia's re-emergence on the international stage. Those were kind of the background. So let's talk about the meat. What were some of President Boakai's high point that you saw, Gabriel, in his speech?
I think some of the high points for me were, the U.S. the UN Security Council seat achievement, the the inflation reduction, I believe at 4%. What else? The economic crime court, right? The economic crime court. The fact that this is actually done now and is pending review to be implemented, I think that should be. Hopefully, that is the case. We've heard some, things about the president, about the yellow machine that should have been and was still in quagmire. So hopefully, that is an achievement, a policy item, or campaign promise that he's going to deliver, especially as I said, the economic crime court. So those three, I believe stood out to me: the UN Security Council seat, inflation, and the economic crime court. I think those are very important, milestone that I believe we should commend him on, especially the UN Security Council seat. So
Thank you. Dr. Pearson, where did the president do so well?
So I will mention a couple of things that he did that I think stood out to me on the issue of the economy, right? At least he was able to project that to the Liberian people that the economy has some issues with inflation, and then inflation rather, and then the issue of inflation was addressed, so that now the country stands at least 5% in terms of inflation. And I think that was good. How he presented that, I have issues with that, but I will raise that later when we're talking about the issues. I'm only looking at the high points. Another thing I noticed when he addressed legislative agenda, he mentioned that there are some PRC related constitutional provisions that he would like to see, or laws that he would like to see changed. That I found that very interesting, and I think that's the right trajectory of our country. Another thing he mentioned is the issue of jobs. We always cry for numbers, and at least he attempted to talk about numbers when he talked about 70,000 jobs are created, short and medium-term jobs. And he also mentioned the issue of youth employment. Of some 15,000 youth were employed, and some 1,000 plus were trained in technology. He talked about the integration of our digital economic transaction. I think that's a good path. Also, he talked about how they're projecting to at least move forward to enlarging that space and that transaction. I think that was good to my hearing. And then Gabriel mentioned, he mentioned the issue about how we intend to project ourselves on the international stage with the access to the Security Council seat. I think that was a good point that he raised there as well. And last but not the least, he mentioned issue about the debt, how not only just the debt, but how reserve is improving. And then he talked about how they're addressing the issue of debt. And those are all concerns that I have. When it comes to the issue of the rule of law and other things, those was expected. Thank you.
Okay, Gabriel, since we're talking numbers here now, the president led some remarkable economic numbers, like the 5.1% GDP growth, inflation at 4%, the highest domestic revenue collection in our history. Are these numbers real, and do they matter to the average Liberian?
So let's start with the 5.1% GDP growth, right? Without being too, this is a number that is actually put out by the IMF or the World Bank. Do we know that is basically how our economy going to grow as Liberians? Right? Is this something that is coming from the central bank? Are they aware of where these numbers are going to come from? How we're going to achieve that? That is the first question we need to ask ourselves. That's one. The other part is that, and this is something we don't, sometimes once we hear this growth number, we get too excited, Dennis. But where is this coming from? Meaning, if you look at the composition of our economy, right? It is heavily based on extractive industry, meaning these concessions agreements that you see, right? That's where most of the growth is coming from, right? Part of it from the service sector, right? So why do I mention that? There's what we call a concentration risk to us as a country. Meaning, if we are dependent heavily on extractive industry, meaning these gold, iron ore, and all these minerals that we're extracting that is contributing heavily to our economy. If there's any deterioration in the global market on the prices of those commodities, we are subject to that concentration risk. Meaning, because we're so heavily concentrated, our revenue is so heavily concentrated in those areas, we will be susceptible to downturn in our economy as well, So we have, this is why, even though they're mentioning this 5% growth rate, right, which I don't believe, right, we have to look at how diversified the economy is. Great nations such as Saudi Arabia that has oil for centuries is diversifying from their oil. So we should be looking at the same thing too. So that is one point. The other point on the inflation, right, which I give him credit for as well. Yes, inflation, I believe he said 4%, right? And this is why I think when we throw numbers around, we should be able to look at the underlying factors from where they're getting this number, right? Inflation in the United States is composed of 80,000 goods and services in a basket. So the basket that they use to measure inflation in the United States, that's 80,000, meaning you go into your mechanic shop, your haircut, and anything you can think about spending money on, your taxes, all of that in that basket, 80,000 to look at it to calculate. How are we calculating our inflation? We don't have a basket of goods, right? Let's say we can add a bag of rice in there as well. We can add cassava.
What do you mean we don't have a basket of goods?
Meaning, how are we generating the number to arrive at that 4%?
You
right?
don't know?
No, we don't know how they're getting that number, right? And there has to be a basket of goods, meaning that you can use to arrive at that number. If those basket of goods, the prices in those basket of goods are going up, then you can say, okay, inflation is going up. This is how we arrive at it. If they're going down, this is how you know that we.
So let's create a basket right now.
Right. That's something we can do. This is something that, as I said, for those in the opposition, if you're really looking at to strengthening your economic policy, this is an alternative you can offer to really put something tangible together that counter the everyday thing that we used to do, right? The other item that he talked about was the, I don't know if you mentioned it, the 70,000 jobs, right? Everybody is the same reason why we're here, complaining about that, because that we know that is a fluff, right? Recently, we just completed the survey from the Boston Federal Reserve that looks at that, that asks companies in terms of how they're looking at the economy, right? This is how they project. We don't have reporting requirements for companies. So let's say if you have a company, like the ArcelorMittal, the Orento, or Orange Mobile, those companies, those big companies in the country, they don't have reporting requirement to say, if you hire Dennis, you hire Dr. Pearson, please report that to us on a quarterly basis or on a monthly basis. This is how we're going to track the number of people who get employed, right? We don't have that. So if you come out, everybody knows that we don't have that. So if you now come out and say we have 70,000 jobs, this is why everybody raised a red flag that they call BS on you, that this number is inaccurate. So in as much that I think the president met the requirement in terms of the standard that he needed to follow in the State of the Nation, most of the things that he presented were embellished and full of fluff. Thank you.
Dr. Pearson, the numbers the president presented are good, right? What are the immediate implications for ordinary Liberians, especially in terms of livelihood and their security?
You see, Dennis, that's the thing about Liberia that is very frustrating, right? Like Gabriel mentioned, you can't just throw numbers out there because you want to throw numbers out there. When you throw in numbers out there, especially when it comes to job, there has to be references that people can see and follow and say, yes, this is comparable to what the paper is saying. But like I'm joking on Facebook, if you said of that number of 70,000, you said 35,000 of that number were people who were short-term, medium-term involved into building roads and helping with street lights, whatever the lights are. 35,000 is about the capacity of SKD Sports Complex.
Yep.
Imagine if the capacity of SKD Sports Complex is filled up with youth, and those youth were given, jobs with the whole road stuff that we're talking about in Liberia. Can you imagine How many persons you can point fingers to and say, "My man, I just coming from work, we're building roads in so area." How many persons can tell you in Liberia that they're building roads in Liberia? Even the RIA road, how many Liberians are employed on the RIA road? What are the ledgers of the companies who employ Liberians on short term or whatever the cases that would justify that 35,000 Liberians were involved in building roads in Liberia? Do they even? So I don't understand. Another thing they mentioned was 12,000 plus. And they just throw numbers. I saw Colinia Kura trying to give us the numbers, and I was just shocked. I'm like, where are these numbers coming from, Dennis?
Yeah.
Where are these numbers coming from? Let me give you another. Let me give you. So 15,000 people got cash for work for street children reintegration. 15,000. Where? 15,000 cash for work in relation to street children reintegration. Where? If you have that number of people, 12,000 people with marginalization. I don't even know what the heck that means. Seeking vessel. All right, cocoa selling. But where are those numbers? Where's the job index in the country that we can see posted on Ministry of Finance board, right? Or posted on the executive mansion website? Then to see the numbers shifting. Who can verify it? So are we seeing Darius DeLong is beating is beating the labor ministers for jobs when all these jobs were there? Why the labor minister did not point to these jobs? Right? So we want a level of transparency. Another thing I want to bring to your attention, Dennis, is that when you mention that 1,000 plus young people got IT training, for me, the number of 1,000 young people getting IT training is not the outcome I want to be told of. I want to be told of how are they already employed and what are they doing? What can you point to and say this is the work of the 1,000 people that we say got IT training? So where are they? Yeah. So these are some of the complex issues, and I think you mentioned something, Dennis. Then I will drop the mark for now. You mentioned something about the figures. My brother talked about, Gabriel talked about in terms of revenue and all that kind of stuff. So look. To trust that numbers that the president gave in the State of the Nation, then I would have loved to see not just the first quarter report of the LRA. I would have loved to see the second quarter report of the LRA. I would have loved to see the third quarter report of the LRA. I would have loved to see the fourth quarter report of the LRA. If Gabriel standing here, a seasoned economist, if Gabriel sitting here today had the 4 different reports of the LRA for the 4 different quarters, he won't be asking what is the diversification of the revenue that was generated? Where is the money coming from? But he's questioning it because there's nothing to go by.
And you guys have a point, right? Maybe Gabriel is not looking high enough, but like the 70,000 jobs, the president said, 70,000 jobs created in the short and long term, and the Youth Entrepreneurship Bank, say there will be 120,000 more. Do you have an idea, starting with you, Gabriel, how does the government count jobs?
And that is, Dennis, that is the point that I was making earlier, right? As I said earlier, the bank that I work for is affiliated with not affiliated, right? We do reporting for the Federal Reserve Bank here, right? To put out its quarterly report in terms of jobs, right? So they will reach out to us and say, since you guys are direct facing with businesses, right, and CEOs, ask them how, like they gave us series of questions which you ask them, right? So we reach out to these people, how many people you hire, what are your projections for the next 3 months or 6 months, like series of questions that the Federal Reserve Bank gave us to ask these people. They take those questions back, and that's how they put out their data, right? They don't call those people directly. They allow us who have client-facing interaction to do that. The central bank can do the same thing, right? You don't have to do that directly. You can go through the commercial banks to do those surveys for you, right? Since those commercial banks have direct facing relationship with businesses. The LRA, as Dr. Pearson mentioned as well, they can keep record of that. Since they collect income taxes, they should know, oh, there are 2, 3, 4, 5, 600 people or 10,000 people that just got hired this quarter or this month because we're collecting income taxes for them for the first time that we were not collecting, right? This is how, I mean, if you want to be authentic, this is how you can track those things. And those numbers are published here. They are published quarterly. As a business owner, you look at those things and it gives you a good indication of to make business decision, right? Even as a citizen as well, you can read those economic data output every quarter and have a little bit of indication what's happening over the next 3 months or years. I mean, 6 months or so. We don't have that, so you can't just come out and pull number out of the hat and say we've hired 70,000 people, right? The economy added 70,000 people, right? Even if they did, we are curious. We want to know the breakdown in terms of, are these seasonal jobs, or are these sustainable long-term sustainable jobs that are being added to the economy? Because it makes a difference, right? If these are seasonal, that means the tax collection on those things are just going to be temporary. So there's a period of time there could be a shortage in the tax revenue that you're going to be collecting. So you're giving numbers without any good substantive substance to back them up.
But Gabriel, we don't expect that in the state of the nation, right? We don't expect, where the numbers are coming from in the state of, it's just a summary. So you can give it to the president.
You can give it, I will agree with you. You can give him that to say, we did add, no, Dennis, you can still give us that and say, okay, we've added 70,000 jobs in the economy, 10,000 from the service sector, another 20,000 in the agriculture, and just give us a breakdown in terms of what types of job these are. You don't have to give us, a whole spiel about them, but give us a sectoral breakdown in terms of where you are in these jobs. I think that's the complexity, the question that a lot of people are having about.
And Dr. Pearson, sometimes when we talk these things, they think, oh, we are being harsh on this government or that government. But this problem is not new, right? We see successive State of the Nation addresses throwing out numbers that we really can't see, we can't touch them. We don't know the sources, what is driving them. So this problem is not new, do you think?
Yes, Dennis, you're right. Look, let me say this. For someone to say that you cannot give the source of the data, even in the State of the Nation, I'm baffled. Because the strength of the communication depends on how well you can sell the information to the listeners. Because for people to buy the information you're giving them, you must give them authentic source of the information. I'm not saying you will go there and have a footnote or a biographic.
No more than they say World Bank, IMF.
Right. You can say the records from LRA has shown that income tax reflect that X number of persons receive employment that was not there before. You can make that clear.
Exactly.
You can also say, based on information coming from the Ministry of Labor, it shows that we have 10,000 foreigners who have required job, and because availability of job and they're working in our country at this level. And at the same time, we have this number of Liberians who been neutered, employed between this period of this. So yeah, you can see where the information is coming from. You can say according to the from reports with the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning. You can say something, but at the end of the day, it's about how can we trust the information you're providing? Because first of all, like Gabriel and I have been saying before, there's no job index in Liberia. There's no job board in Liberia. There's nothing in Liberia that you myself can go to on a regular basis and just look it up and query it before even the SONA. They're not there. So yeah, I think we can do better, Dennis. We can do better.
And talking about doing better, let's look. We talk about the highs. Let's go to the lows, and then we'll go specific again. what were some of the president's low points, Mr. Pearson?
All right, so I think that there are a few low points for me. So take for instance, he talked about the economy, right? And when addressing the economy, he just threw out numbers there, and he said, "Oh, we're leaving from a donor dependency, we're now moving to partnership." But how? Like how? And what example can you cite? Because if all I can recall is that you're just saying every day you're signing MOU here, you're signing MOU there, it's still donor driven. As far as I'm concerned, it's donor driven. What did he provide in the SONA that suggests and show me a trend that pick off on the issue of the partnership, right? So another thing that I think I question strongly is, like I mentioned, the issue about job availability, right? You say you gave 70,000 short-term and medium-term jobs for Liberians. So what are the numbers that show how it impacted the lives of the people? How did it change people? You know, one of the things you will notice, Dennis, in even the United States, where we all want to come to, when people are giving a SONA, the people bring some, how the policy impacted their lives. Right? Dennis, you've seen that many times. And point to the person in the crowd, they tell you how their policy impacted their lives. So we need to, the President Buchanan should have said, look at 72nd, the people of 72nd, right? Of the people of 72nd, which is we'll call them the handicapped people, we stop calling the handicapped, we'll call them physically impaired people. Maybe what did that job availability?
77, not 72nd.
Yeah, 77. What did that job availability to them in any capacity? What about 100 or 200? How did it change their life? Did it take some money from the street from begging, and now today they having their own? You talk about 15,000 people, or not 15, but 12,000 people became entrepreneur from your grant that you gave them, or whatever thousand you want to put on that. How many of them people can we point to? And where are they? So I mean, I think those are some of the issues that I'm concerned about. You talk about handling debt, but then my debt portfolio increase. What you know? What you know? I don't understand. How can your reserve be increasing and your debt be increasing at the same time? Like how does it make that make sense to me?
So you see,
Gabriel, before you come here, I want us to drill down on that a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And I like to measure always outcome driven, right? Let's say I heard the president, recounted, even in my own native Sino, I think they say they have some water project. You did this, you did that, right? But what is missing from most speeches, not just this one, is even if you build a road, building a road from Cape Mount to Cape Palmas by itself means nothing. If you build this road, what has been the impact of this road? As a result of this road, what have we been able to accomplish?
Thank you.
That's the outcome we want to measure. That's the only thing we want to measure, not the how many miles of road. So I want us you to touch on that a little bit. Did you hear that? Because you can even build a Foya Villa. We can build a new Morovia. But as a result, what has it done? Did you hear those in the president's speech?
You see, and sometimes I think it gets frustrating, even talking about politics in Liberia in terms of, because you especially with this administration, we expected so much because they came out with so much bravado, right? Meaning we are the technocrat, we're the leftover technocrat from Ellington, as if those people did anything. So we expected them, we're going to take over, we're going to rescue this economy, right? So some of us expected some kind of a robust transformation, something equivalent to reconstruction, right? Because I don't think we've had that since the war ended, right? But let's dive into some of the low points that and why these things are not result driven, but they're just surface level things that they just mentioned. As Dr. Pearson pointed out, they talked about the debt, and we are now at $2.8 billion in debt, 2.8, right? I believe $1.6 billion to the World Bank and the African Development Bank, and the other 1.2 to the CBL and the commercial banks, right? Last budget that we just saw, the servicing on that debt was 230, right? Is expected to go up. And the point that I was trying to make here is that the president said they have a debt management program. You have not restructured the debt. Your debt servicing payment is expected to go up, increase next year. But you've listed that you've in your state of the nation that you've addressed that, right? Even if you say you've addressed that, what are the the result driven that we're talking about? What does that mean? Does that mean you don't have too much allocations to service that debt anymore? And if not, where is that additional capital that you're saving going to go towards? Are you going to put it to agriculture, education? Talk about things like that. Be like, don't just list things, but put them towards something, result driven. And we also talk about his policy reform, where he said they're going to crack down on tax evasion, right? You want to reform tax rules and raising the GSA tax by 1% and VAT system online by 2027, right? But at the same time, for a country where we don't have a private sector driven economy, you are planning on taxing. You are taxing the little bit that those people are earning out of them without providing any services to them, right? So when the president is listing these things, or any of his administration, like, you're right, we should look at them, but at the same time we should look at the outcome. Look at the reform. We're cutting taxes, we're going after tax evasion, but at the same time, in that same sentence, you're going to tax people additionally. So what does that do? It cancels out, right? Let's go to his education and housing policy, right? The education, they talk about 22,000 STEM kit. Dennis, we are in 2026. Who uses STEM kits anymore? STEM is a program within itself, a whole program within itself. The science, the technology, engineering, and math. These are not just kids you go put in front of people to say, okay, if you complete this kit, that means you're STEM certified. It's a process within itself, right? I don't know, Dennis, still with us. It seems like you're frozen, right?
No, I'm
So,
here.
right. So we leave that. Let's go to the housing. I agree. I absolutely agree with them. And if you talk to anybody in Liberia, they will tell you there's a housing shortage in that country. For those of you listening, this is a good business opportunity, right? But this is the plan that he put forward to address it is not what you do, right? This is a country of 5.6 million people, but you're telling in your state of the nation that you're going to build 600 social housing. Instead of saying, I'm going to establish a housing development bank, an agriculture bank that is going to make loans to people working, the average person, to be able to buy and finance their homes in the country. But you're saying you're going to build what is 600 houses going to do, units going to do for people? We are growing at a population of 2.6, 2.8 every year, right? So you're adding 600. We are still, by the time in the next 5 years, there's going to be a housing crisis if we don't solve this problem, right? So
And Gabriel, we'll come to what is, the future, right? What he plans to do. I want us to spend some time on what he reported, right? Let me give you an example.
Right.
He said the launch of a digital school permit platform and expanded scholarship with local recipients increasing from 378 to 1,000, while all arrears for 210 students abroad were settled. He said our people, they have scholarship that they never pay for, so he said we pay that. He also said funds were allocated to renovate the University of Liberia and public schools to address congestion and improve facilities. We provided funds for the renovation of the University of Liberia and several public schools across the country. I was somebody at the University of Liberia listening to this, and earlier I talked about outcome driven. Okay, so you provided the money. Is that the end? If you provided the money, why can you just point to the new building that has been constructed, the bathroom that have been fixed, and the leakages that have been plugged there, and then bring in, as Gabriel alluded to earlier, the University of Liberia students to attest to this. Dr. Pearson, you spent some time with the University of Liberia students, and you were there.
Dr.
How
Pearson.
do you look at this claim?
Yeah, Dennis, thank you. Look, this is what I'm saying, right? And that's what baffles me, right? So I will come to that, but let me go back to what Gabriel was saying on the debt. So you put in the speech that you are servicing the debt, but the debt goes up by 70 million, right? But then you did not tell me what did the 70 million produce as a result of that exercise. So when you took when you indebted the next generation by $70 million, Dennis, moving the debt from 2024 2.73 billion to 2025 ending 2.8 billion. That's 70 billion variance. What can you show? What can you point to? That's what I'm saying. For me, that's what makes the speech powerful to me. Tell me, say, I credited 70 million, put a country 70 million debt. What I tell you. Let's go to the other area you're talking about. You mentioned a thing about school.
Dr. Pearson, let me give you an example of what the president said here. Maybe it will answer your question. Maternal death dropped nationwide. Immunization coverage for children under 1% reached 88%, and medicine stock out decreased from 95 to 5%. That's what I want to see.
Exactly.
So the president laid out specific numbers in this area. Does this?
But that cannot be attributed. That cannot be attributed to the debt. And let me tell you why.
No, I'm not talking about debt. I'm talking about the president.
No, I'm just saying because you threw in this in asking about what the debt portfolio achieved for the nation that you need to tell us, right? Because that you're showing me is as a result of the national budget, right? It's an outcome of the national budget. And you tell us that when you're generating revenue, you generate a surplus. So which means you couldn't have gone to credit. You couldn't have gone to credit to do what the budget should have done. So yeah, let me go to the end, right? So why like Mr. Carter pointed out, why tell me that you want to go build 600 homes? You should be pointing me to 600 homes that have been built over the past of this fiscal year I'm reporting on. Now you're talking about University of Liberia. Why are you telling me you're going to renovate University of Liberia when University of Liberia was dilapidated for the whole 2025, and we've been complaining about this all from January to December? Why is it futuristic? Why is it futuristic? I think it's only futuristic, like you were saying. For now on, we declare drug as national emergency. Everybody clap, and then when you go to the emergency, now no emergency happened. So yeah, you want to do this, but you get there, nothing is done. So what is going on? That's asking, like, point to the results. And these are not results, Dennis.
So
Dennis, let me throw in some results, right? Let me throw in some results here. He said, Mr. Speaker, the honorable members of the legislature, poor sanitation and limited access to clean water have long threatened public health, especially in urban areas like Monrovia, where 42% of citizens lack basic sanitation facilities. That statement is true, right? Mm-hmm. Then let's see why it did. In 2005, we completed the Bopolu water supply system, commenced new water supply projects in Greenville and Plebo, and began the rehabilitation and expansion of the Zwedru water supply system. These projects are set to benefit over 43,000 of our people.
That's good. That's excellent.
From Bonikem, but at least you will know when people drinking clean water in Plebo, you will know.
I mean,
to be honest, these kind of claims, they were, as my pastor used to say, they were vexing my soul. In Monrovia, the place is dirty. Central Street is closed. Trash everywhere. Clean water. And he said, we completed this in Bopolo. We're doing water supply in Greenville. Greenville now is like a village.
And Dennis, the you know, without being too technical here, I think the process behind that, it's again how strained from a revenue standpoint this government is. It'll cost a lot to do all of those things you just mentioned in Monrovia, where the system is actually needed. Then it'll actually cost to do in those small counties, right? So you spend a little bit of money in those counties to get those things done, right? Because the population that is, you know, minimum compared to what is needed in what we have in Monrovia, right? In Monserrato, right? So that's how you have to look at it. Plebo, how many people who live in Plebo? How many people live in Popolu? Now you bring that same scenario to Monserrato, where it's almost half of the population in the country lives right in those three counties, right? And to put a water project like that in that county, in Monserrato, will cost a lot. So that's the diversion thing you have to look at as well. You know,
But are they doing it in
nevertheless,
Plebo, in fact?
huh?
Are they doing it in Plebo? Are they doing it in
That's another question.
Greenville?
Nevertheless, we should commend them because even though I believe they're, you know, diverting fund that should be put right in where the service is needed a lot, they're doing something. We should commend them on that. The part that I wanted to get to was something that you mentioned earlier with those uh, the online education certification or whatever they are. Here's a thing that and I'm not an education expert, right? But so I want to put that out there. The reason for people going to school is to be not just be able to think for themselves, but to be able to provide for themselves, to get a job and be able to provide for themselves and take care of them, their family, right? If you are putting people through school, you're talking about 378,000 people going through school. That is great. But what is the pipeline from the schools, from those university, technical colleges, and institution to the job field? There's no pipeline. So you put somebody through school, they come out of school, there's a stagnant economy that they're coming right into just to sit on the and to sit around and do nothing like everybody else. Instead, what they could have done, you look at the number of people that are in school, you allow each university in that country or technical institution to create partnership with the private sector, right? We do that here in the United States. So within your junior or senior year, before you graduate, companies will come to your campus to interview the juniors and seniors that are graduating. Sometimes you even get a job offer in your junior year, waiting for you before you even graduate. So we have that pipeline, right? So that's how the company recruits. We can do the same thing. We have NGOs in our country. We have the ArcelorMittal in those countries, right? We have some, they may not be bigger company, but some that hire 10 to 15 people in those countries. They can create
I
a
want to
partnership.
mention that we have focus on Liberia.
Right.
Contact also, we can supply, we can absorb some journalists from the.
They can create a partnership with those employers. So let me say this quickly and I will end. What that also does, it incentivizes people to go to school. So you looking at that now, so okay, the only way I can get a job if I go to school. If I go to this school, I know ArcelorMittal goes there to interview. Uh, Oranto goes there to interview people for engineers. So this school produce a lot of engineers. So if I want to go to engineering job, this college I need to go to because I know these companies go there to hire people directly. They barely hire, you know, in the general public. You create that relationship, and that how you can show outcome, right? So it is being done around the world. But we come out here and boast about we graduate thousands of people with no economy for them to go to, no private sector, but the government. So everybody look at the government. I
Thank you.
yield. Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Pearson, I want to talk about some things the president threw out today again. And I don't want to kind of sway your response, but let me read it, right? Say we have deepened our bilateral relations with the United States of America. As a result, right? As a result, okay. Let me put that back on the board. He says, as a result, by extending the validity of B1, B12 visa for Liberians from 12 to 36 months and launching a $124 million health project. In my view, this was the lowest point for the president to really talk about with the visa issue we're going through, to cite the extension, the 36-month visa extension. That's old news. The current news is the ban, the suspended visas, or immigrant visa, the one that can make us stay in America and send money back. That one is not happening. And the president completely ignored that to talk about that. Next, stay on the international front, he said Liberia strengthened ties with France, Serbia, Morocco, China, Barbados, Bahamas, UAE, and the European Union. And then listen to this one, which I believe again was another thing. The president talked about the FOIA project, which I really thought he was going to leave out of this whole thing. He said, Liberia is set to strengthen its global standing by hosting international meetings. To this end, we have undertaken the construction of the Mana River Union Presidential Center for Regional Peace and Development in Foya, Lofa County. The facility is fully owned by the government of Liberia, and it includes 500-seat conference hall and secure accommodation villas for visiting dignitaries. We are also pleased to acknowledge the invaluable contribution of the Angie Brook Women's Center Situation Room in promoting peace and democracy. It is also commendable that the United Nations Security Council has recognized them as exemplary mechanism for monitoring potential hotspots and incidents involving violence, harassment, and intimidation. The MRU Presidential Center will serve as a significant resource to support their true efforts. Dr. Pearson, your response to those claims.
Thank you, Dennis. So I think it's okay for the president to mention that we will still have cordial relations, diplomatic relations with our counterpart in foreign service. Will I see that as a priority for State of the Nation address? No. When would I see that as a priority for State of the Nation address is when there is a conflict between our nation and another nation, and then they went there and they strengthen the ties that had the problem, yes. But other than that, I mean, what does that do for the Liberian people? I mean, what is the significance of saying that? Liberia has been around for almost 200 years, going to 178 years, going to 200 years. Why are we talking about strengthening ties with other countries when it's already supposed to be strengthening, right? On the visa issue, I mean, it's laughable, because even the American government will tell you from time immemorial, the fact that you went to the embassy and you apply for a visa is not a guarantee you're going to get the visa. Even if you got the visa and you travel, you got a plane and you go to JFK or any of the international airports in America, it's not a guarantee you enter the United States of America. They can still send you back.
Yep.
So what am I boasting for? It reminds me of the bogus scheme that they had, like people spending money on that. If you pay for this scholarship, you go get visa to come to America, and people lost a lot of money on that account. Now, when you come into the ordinary people who don't have the sophistication to think about some of these things, and say, oh, you now increase visa time from 12 months to 36 months, whatever the case is, people running to apply for visa to be denied, and you have one of the highest rate of visa denied in the country, you have to address that. I mean, how important is that? So let me tell you what would be important when it comes to the U.S. Embassy and visa issue. If the president had come out and said that I was able to negotiate with the American Embassy in Liberia to show that when my citizens are going to seek visa to go to the United States for interview or whatever, they'll be immediately treated with a proper waiting area, so that when it's raining or when the sun is hot, my citizen will not stay in the sun or in the rain to obtain a visa. I would be impressed if you tell me, oh, they have rate in denial of visa, in which has been addressed by bilateral talks with the American government, and now if we have 80% visa denial rate, we're looking to at least see it and drop to at least 40%. Then I'll be happy. Other than that, I mean, nothing changed to me. I mean, it doesn't make no sense, right? So I don't know what is there to be reported. MRU, that whole thing about MRU is an embarrassment. The fact that it was even mentioned in the story now tells you how shameless our political leaders are. This is the president who went on ELBC State Radio and said he had no knowledge about that project. That project was in the news for almost close to a year, and no one could give a clear statement as to what that project was about. We finally understood that the project was funded by SOEs, which is Liberian people money, without any reference to the Liberian legislature to approve any funding in the budget for that project, up to $6+ million. So who got the right to dispense Liberian people money without the legislature approving it for such massive investment? Who? I mean, what are we aiding and abetting crime in the country and feigning corruption? That's what that looks like to me. It shouldn't have been mentioned at all.
Gabriel, let's go to what, in your view, did the president leave out? And let me start by saying, for instance, when the president speaks, when our president speaks, we want to be hopeful. Right now, it's tough for those of us living in the United States, especially Minnesota. Did the president say anything to address our fears, or has he taken any step to talk to the U.S. government that he can report to us to say, well, this is how far we've gone? I mean, they took us out of this. First, when we were left out of the list, we were happy, and we were giving the government all the props to say, yes, we did it. We spoke beautiful English. We agreed to accept Garcia, and in return, this is what we got. Now we're on the list, and people are worried. Liberians are being, forced. Did the president say anything to that effect? What else do you believe the president left out of his speech that was going to make us hopeful or feel a little better?
So Dennis, I'm not very familiar with the minister of what is it, foreign
affairs.
Yeah, I'm not very familiar with her, but I think she's had she's been drinking out of a fire hose, to say the least. Meaning, like, at one minute you think you're coming off for air, next thing you know, water's gushing down your face and gushing down your throat to the point you can't even get a break. So I feel for her. I don't know her, but I do feel for her. Because one minute she's putting out something what seems as if this is a success on her end. Next thing you know, there's a complete strike down from the U.S. administration, such as the celebration of the 36-month visa, and next thing you know, we got put on the ban list, right? So one minute you think she's celebrating, next thing you know, she's going back to the drawing board. So you can't really put that on her. To her point, the mistake, I think I agree with Dr. Pearson. The mistake that I think the president made again is by putting this in the state of the nation. These are things that we all have seen in the news. We saw the approval of the visa, and then we saw what happened right after that, right? We saw the approval, the MOU of the health MOU that we signed with the United States, and we
124 million.
Exactly, the 124 million, which actually also require us to put another 50 million that we may not have in the budget to that, right? So I don't know how we're going to be able to meet our end of the bargain, right? The other thing that this president that I don't think we talked about a lot was 20 million poultry factory, right? I'm sure you guys heard about that. That a poultry factory is should have been built somewhere and the government's supposed to be providing financing for that, right?
Yeah.
We didn't hear anything about that. So in terms of what I believe the things the president left out, I will say this. And you can consider this bias as well for those of you watching. I believe he and this administration, including the previous administration, continue to leave out the diaspora and how well they could tap into this.
He said something on the diaspora.
He did, but in terms of really energizing this base to really get people to go back and invest, I don't think he really tapped into that. That's one. The other point here is there's ICE raid in this country, where you have your citizen, your bigger economic base, the middle class of your country is based in this country, the foreign minister is supposed to have some kind of conversation with the, her counterpart here, and really be able to offer some kind of hope to the Liberian people that, we know what you guys are going through in this country. This is what we're able to talk about. We know you got, like, offer some kind of hope to what Liberian people are going through here. I know most Liberians in this country support the Republican administration, so for them that is not, they don't feel like their lives is at risk. But I think we're under a severe threat here that is an opportunity that the Foreign Affairs Ministry can capitalize on to, get a little bit of wind that might, they might be able to offer, they hopefully something that's sustainable they can actually offer to the Liberian people. But I think for me, those are the two things: the tap into the diaspora, and also, being able to capitalize on this volatile era that we're in within this country, to be able to offer the Liberian here some kind of hope, at least to say that you did your part. That's it.
Dr. Pearson, the president said, in our ongoing commitment to maintain road access for our citizens, I'm pleased to announce that the widely discussed 285 yellow machines procured by the government last year are currently being shipped to Liberia. These assets will be located at county hubs and used to support road maintenance and will be a crucial part of our disaster response preparedness across the country. That's so if you think the president forgot about the yellow machine, you got to think again. But in your view, Dr. Pearson, what did the president leave out that you were expecting?
So let me be honest with you, the president lied about the yellow machine. The yellow machine that is coming to Liberia is not a yellow machine that was intended to have stolen money from the Liberian people. We all know that. So for him to have said they must talk about 285 yellow machine is now on its way to Liberia, that's a lie. In fact, just 3 days ago, the information minister, Jeremy Lekpia, just told us that the guy from South Africa machine that they brought in the country, they're taking it back because they procured different machines. So I mean that was a bold-faced propaganda on the part of the president. But some of the things I think the president left out that I think was missed opportunity is similar to what we're discussing here. For instance, on social equity and poverty targeting. So even though he mentioned some highlights in the macroeconomic gains, but he didn't really show targeted strategies for poverty reduction and inequality in the country. So wealth is circulating in the hands of few individuals, especially the elite. How is he working to ensure that the elite do not continue to close the gap, of their own poverty, and then widening the gap of the poverty of ordinary people? I would have loved to see if the president had the common people in mind, all right? Especially when it comes to high salary and wasteful spending. Another thing I think was a missed opportunity that he left out, detailed plan for the youth. So he threw a number of jobs here and there, but they were all mentioned in the informal sector, like Gabriel. What is the pipeline between the formal sector and the education system, technical vocational training system? What is the pipeline, right? How do we really see that the young people are integrated into the formal economy? That was missing. Nothing was said about that. General policy beyond cash support. Yeah, you're giving money to women and things. You say you're giving them, making them entrepreneurs and other kind of thing. But at the end of the day, I don't see a strong enforcement of our policies when it comes to gender-based violence, rape, and that kind of an issue, right? If I have my mother, she's an entrepreneur, and my baby sister got raped, my mom has to spend time outside of the market chasing behind court cases. At the end of the day, what happened to the market? She's gonna lose it. All right. Issues with security. I didn't see strong emphasis. We had a lot of issues with people getting turned over to Guinea. What does that not require some clarity from the president? All right, people are dead people are being, I mean, discovered all across the country. Is that not something that the president is concerned about as to how he's going to address the issue of security for our people? You know, so I think that was a missed opportunity with the issue of drugs. He mentioned you got a drug task force, and that's it. A drug plan, that's it. 800 people cater for. The percentage of number of persons affected by drug in the country, 800 people cater for. It's the in LU under the palabra will say it's infinitesimal to the problem, right? So how do you address a drug issue that is hurting the entire country? You're talking about 800 people.
Thank you.
What is that? What is that word again? Infili what?
It means more infinitesimal. How can you pronounce it under the palabra infinitesimal?
Infinitesimal.
Let's look at what the president says he's going to do going forward, right? He said, accordingly, I will take the following steps without delay. And this is something as we continue to talk, we can hold him at, all right? First, I will ensure that we continue to comprehensively review our concession framework. Does that sound familiar? We review the concession every time. He said, we'll continue to comprehensively review our concession framework to correct historical inequities in the extraction and management of our natural wealth, and to ensure that Liberia and its people receive fair and lasting benefits. That's number one. I want Liberian people, please listen to that, so that at the end of the year, we can judge him by it. Two, I will take immediate action to resolve the long-standing issues of relocating the Palm Grove Cemetery, where the remains of former presidents and other distinguished citizens lie. This is matter of national honor, historical responsibility, and respect for those who serve our republic. Three, I will act to rehabilitate decaying public buildings in Monrovia and across the country, restoring dignity to public service and safeguarding national assets for future generations. You could see we had a report our BWI. I mean, that prestigious school is breaking down. Fourth, I will initiate the process of laying out major cities throughout Liberia, consistent with recent decentralization initiatives and the newly enacted zoning law of Liberia. I mean, the local government act has been passed, and we want more on that. This is what our friend Tom Kane is very passionate about. Our fellow Liberians, is as we begin our journey together with a firm belief that Liberia's potential is unlimited, that belief remains unshaken. So that's what the president said he will do. Gabriel, do you trust the president to do it?
So I mean, I think when you were, listing these promises that he outlined, one of the things you talked about was the concession, the review of the concession agreement framework, and like you alluded to, this is something we've heard for, years, even with the previous administration. And if we were getting a cent for every time we heard that, you and I wouldn't be on the show, right? So in terms of whether he's able to carry through on those commitments, that is yet to be seen. I doubt it. And the reason why I doubt, especially the concession part, is because these are contract. You sign it. I review some of these things, and he's right. If I were a president or anybody advising the president, I would tell you the first day you get in office, that's one of the things you should make a priority. Review every concession agreement, and if it needs to be restructure it, because those things are very predatory in terms of how they were written, how they were structured, and pretty much how we negotiated. We were pretty much left naked on those tables when we're negotiating. So I do agree with him. Those require revision, but whether that is something that he's going to do, that is, I would give it an 80-20, probability of that being done. I don't know if, and again, you guys can disagree with me. I don't know whether, relocating cemeteries are issue of national priorities that you should be putting forth, especially in the country that we have right now. I mean, yes,
And
it's
Gabriel, because they're all broken, covered by garbage, or how people live there, Zogos and all that.
exactly.
Relocating is not the answer.
It relocating that, if you say I'm going to clean it up and put a little bit of facelift to it to make it to some kind of appeal, I would agree with you. But trying to relocate, assume graves and trying to relocate. Now the question becomes, what are you going to do to those sites? Is there like roads going through that? Is there like a thriving community that's bustling that it's becoming a problem that people cannot build around it that you want to, but that is whether that is the case or not, that is not priority, at least for you and I, what we know about the country that we have, it is not a priority. The other part in terms of I absolutely agree with the
I
zoning
think that's
law.
where he got his most applause when he said you are going to relocate the cemetery.
And I don't think our people know what they even want. And you guys can nail me to the cross on this for saying that, but I don't think we really know what we want. If that got a lot of applause, I don't think we really know our priority as a country, right? The decayed public building in Liberia. This is a song we've been singing here, especially the University of Liberia. I've I've beat up on the Alumni Association in the U.S. for allowing that university to become the way it is. Even regardless of you have a president who is not cooperating with you, you can have a force in terms of how that university, remain the flagship university in our country. But we've sat here, we've allowed the flagship, what's supposed to be the flagship university campus in our country look as if it is some kind of a building in 1920 that the war ran through and nobody has been there. I've seen people throwing toting chairs to go to different classes, bathrooms you got to pay to go to. We can do a lot with that. There's a lot that
Okay.
can be done. So I whether he's going to be able to meet all of these things is it might. I don't want to put my hopes on it, especially with the concession. But I believe if he's going to do anything, focus on the city, the I mean the zoning of the new cities, and also the public building to at least put a facelift to the country. Thank you.
And we didn't talk much about the policy, because these things sometimes the policies shift because you can address these things by yourself. But let
Money,
me
it
go to
requires
Dr.
capital.
Pearson
Right.
on those. Dr. Pearson, those are the promises the president is making. Keep
Thank
our
you,
people
Dennis.
safe.
For me to believe the president on the issue of concession, I must believe him on the issue of MedTech. I must believe in the issue of CTM. I must believe in the issue of beer mounting. I must believe on the issue of ArcelorMittal. ArcelorMittal, who we have no idea on what the value of the ore they take from the country annually. We don't have record of that. So until now that they review, now they're going to re-sign another ArcelorMittal deal. We still don't know how much ArcelorMittal takes from the country in cash term, in monetary value in terms of our resources. We don't even know what in addition they take beside from the country, right? So I cannot trust anything he says about concession because someone once said this. They said for me to trust you in terms of what you say you'll do tomorrow, I must have trust you on what you said you have done yesterday.
Yeah.
And everything that they have promised to have done yesterday before taking office, they failed the Liberian people on those things. So I mean, zero, then it's zero. I don't have any confidence in that whole concession here. So go with you where you said that when it comes to concession, what I want to see is the LETI, the group that is responsible to evaluate the performance of this concession. I want to see how they can ensure that the current laws and policies they have on the book in checkmating these institutions, these concessions are legitimate. Then I mean, in full force. Let the president be telling me these are the gains that we made from concession reviews. That we should be telling me this.
Yeah, you see.
Thank you. this is how the president
going
concluded,
forward,
right?
right?
After another year of service, we can say with confidence that the state of the nation is stronger than we last stood here. You know, I remember I heard from the finance minister. He said, you know, we are not where we want to be, but definitely we are not where we were. You know, this remind me of the speech by the Notre Dame coach, who said that's some time ago, years ago. He said, "We are not where we're supposed to be. We are not where we want to be, but thank goodness we are not where we used to be." So what the president is saying is we've made progress. And most of the time when you see President Boakai talk, he's not saying we are where we want to be, but he said it's better than before. Dr. Pearson, what is the state of the nation? First, if you don't agree, do you agree with President Boakai?
I agree with
Definitely.
President Walker partially because when I look back 2 years back, the image that I had of President Walker is not the image that I see right now. The image that I had of President Walker 2 years ago, he was frail, he was sick, he was fragile. Now you see President Walker, he is healthy, he is fat, his face is round, right? He never used to wear any kind of fancy clothes, but now he's wearing expensive shoes, expensive coat, expensive watches, and stuff. He never used to have 15 vehicles to travel in. Now he got two bulletproof Toyota. He has two bulletproof Lexus 800 series. So yeah, he's better off than he was before. That's a fact, right? And of course, with the other rest of the guys we brought with him to power, some other guys couldn't afford to rent their own apartment. Now they're building, I mean, big mansions and homes. Like, you know, like Samuel Tuer, not Samuel Tuer, the guy named what the Tuer from LPRC. Amos Tuer and up beginning, they can contribute towards building $6 million MRU compound. Who believes that made Amos Tuer could contribute to a $6 million compound for Liberia? Now the building $1 million compound from SOE's budget, right? So yeah, they are better off. But are the Liberian people better off? I would say no, Dennis. Liberian people are not better off because everything I heard President Broka mention, people he said he will build 600 homes. He will do that. So the people say in the future. So how we get there, we're looking. But he's there. He probably living big life now. He large. So yeah, he's there. Dennis is there.
So to you, what is the state of the nation?
The state of the nation, nothing has changed except President Boakai and his cronies.
Oh, God, we don't want any comment paraphrase. Gabriel, do you agree with President Boakai? I mean, let's give it to him. LEC, we see, you know, people are responsible. We don't see a lot of buka dancing now. People are going to work. You know, reading through the state of the nation is not an accomplishment like it used to be when President Weah said macroeconomic fundamentalism. Then everybody started clapping because the bar was set so low that all we want is for him to read through the speech and get over with it. We're not setting that bar anymore. Are we where we used to be, or have things become better?
And again, Dennis, that is a bias as well. That is, and I think, and let's be honest, right? If we are comparing this administration to the previous administration, right, in terms of on any level, how they were handling the economy, compared to how this administration is handling the economy, then yes, we are not where we used to be, right? Then we've made progress. But then again, the question becomes, as I always like to say on here, would you, who consider yourself an A student, want to compare yourself to a D student? Is that the mark that you want to make, right? If you are saying you are the best student in a class, why would you even want to compare your grades to that of a D student, right? We are, as we all know, set the bar very low. So if that is the measure, the threshold on which you are comparing yourself, what does that make you then, right? If that's the case, absolutely, then we can give him the credit that he needs to, that things there's a little bit of improvement, right? But this is not what we're supposed to be comparing him. We're supposed to be comparing him to the first United Party administration, right? Or we can even compare this administration to his peers in the region, Sierra Leone, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, even though those countries are, leap years ahead of us, right? So to be a little bit lenient, yes, if we are comparing him to the previous administration in terms of we are administration, then we can give him the credit that there's a little bit of improvement. But I think from you and our perspective and everybody else, the citizens in our country as well, there's a lot of people who voted for this president expected a lot, and they have not seen that. And I think what we've just seen in the State of the Nation is evidence in Exhibit 1.1 that was presented to us, even though, including the one that was glossed over and embellished, highly embellished. Yeah.
So what is the State of the Union?
The State of
presidency
the
is stronger than before. You agree?
it's stronger than before. I would agree, right? But it's context, of course. If you leave out the context, then yeah, that is on you.
I want you to squarely disagree with Mr. Comey and Dr. Pearson that nothing has changed.
No, the State of the Nation is it's better than it was. Let's put that on there. But again, as I said, there's context, and I just give you some of the context on which
Thank you.
that statement.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, 605-313-6004, the code 791-403#. Please call and let's hear your perspective on President Bouakai's State of the Union. This is how, while you get your phone ready, let's listen to a 1 minute review of the State of the Nation. Welcome to Focus on Liberia. Today, President Joseph Boakai delivered his 2026 State of the Nation address, declaring a new chapter themed From Resolve to Results. The president reported a robust economic turnaround, with GDP growing by 5.1% in 2025, driven by mining and agriculture, while inflation has dropped to a two-decade low of 4%. Infrastructure remains central to the administration's goals. The arrival of the Yellow Machine signals a nationwide push for road maintenance, connecting communities to opportunities. In social services, electricity access has expanded with over 63,000 new connections, and the health sector celebrated a significant drop in maternal mortality rates nationwide. On the world stage, Liberia has secured a seat on the UN Security Council. Domestically, the path to justice advances with draft laws for the War and Economic Crimes Court now ready for review. As the administration deepens its arrest agenda, the focus for 2026 is clear, moving from stabilizing the economy to delivering tangible results for every Liberian. That was my clone. You like it? Get right. You like my clone?
Yeah, that was good. Actually, it's a more compressed, analysis of the entire speech. So yeah, absolutely.
And that's why I focus on Liberia continuing to be the best. I was watching a little thing. It said the eagle, when the eagle is sitting, only the crow can fight the eagle. So the crow will come and start pecking at the eagle. So what the eagle doesn't bottom, the eagle start going higher and higher until the crow is out of breath and drop off. Yeah. So that's why I focus on Liberia is not going to mind those pecking. We're going to just go up.
Incremental improvement, gradation, gradation. Yeah.
And so we are kind of leveraging the tools that are available to us to make things easier. That's why we are able to analyze the State of the Union 2 seconds after it was delivered.
Yeah.
We have both the brain and the technology to do so.
Yeah, you got to adapt.
While we await calls, let's look at the president's legislative agenda. Because all these things cannot be done by just saying, I will do it, I will. Dr. Pearson, let's talk about what the president's legislative agenda is, that is going to do, and how is that different? Because sometimes some of these promises is like, they're being rehearsed over and over. Let's talk a little bit more about the president legislative agenda as we await some calls. And we'll be putting some comments also on the screen. A lot of people some people disagree with us.
That's fine.
Dr. Pearson, is the president promising to work? The Speaker Kuhn, right? The way he ended. Anyway, that's his first State of the Union. But he looked very shaky when he was kind of conducting. Dr. Pearson, let's talk about the legislative agenda.
Look, Dennis, I don't understand my country for the fact that the state of the nation, like I mentioned earlier, for me to say I have confidence in what you're promising me, I should be able to reflect on what you've promised before and achieved. Right. So what did the president promise in the previous state of the nation that he accomplished as his legislative agenda that he reported on? Right? Something significant. What is he promising again going into the new year? So I don't want to waste my time talking about anything.
Let me bring you back to some of it, right? He said, Mr. Speaker, honorable members of the legislature, I have also submitted 4 amendments to existing anti-corruption laws, including legislation to address illicit enrichment and to remove the existing statute of limitation on corruption cases. In 2026, we will submit additional priority bills, including legislation to establish a national planning commission to strengthen development planning and budgeting, and a specialized court for property disputes to reduce the backlog of land cases. We will propose a universal health insurance program and a bill to establish a national road authority dedicated to road construction and maintenance. We will also resubmit the revised charter of the University of Liberia to accommodate needed reforms and administrative structure. We will expand the Liberia Agricultural Commodities Regulatory Authority's mandate to enhance the output, processing, and marketing of quality agricultural commodities. We will also seek an amendment to the executive law to restructure the Ministry of Foreign Affairs so it can better serve citizens and adapt to our evolving international responsibilities. Finally, we will submit bills to repeal outdated People Redemption Council era decrees that created public institutions that no longer serve today's government needs. Beyond legislation, my administration issued 16 executive orders to advance governance, economic, and social priorities in line with our national development goals. Each action, whether by law or order, was taken for one purpose: the benefit of the Liberian people. If you agree, say amen, Dr. Pearson.
No, I don't agree. You see, this is what I tell you, I don't agree. People give these things in futuristic terms, right? I'm interested in the president telling us what did they achieve to begin with and the impact it has made on the country. That's what I want to see. Dennis, I'm not taking to celebrating. We going after these things. Tell me, what is it that you projected last year, you achieved as a legislative agenda, and how it impacted the country? That's why you see, I'm not giving credence to we will. So the local government,
right? Pearson, before we have Bobo Napo, there got to be pregnancy.
No. I don't celebrate pregnancy. I told you. So like the local government act, like the Liberian National Tourism Authority Act, right? The National Food Assistance Agency Act. These are some of the things the president had on the agenda before, right? If these things were achieved, how did it impact the country? That's what I want to hear. How did these changes, these legislative advances, impact the country? So that's what I want to. People shouldn't get me wrong. I'm not promising that I want to have these laws done is not a good thing, but I'm saying the country is 178 years old. Start telling me now in the present terms, this is what we achieved as a legislative agenda. These acts were passed, and these are the impact. This is the impact it is having on the country. You tell me now what you want to go for next. That's what I'm saying, Dennis. I mean, I don't go to the empty open statements.
Thank you. Gabriel, that's the present legislative agenda.
You know, I kind of somewhat want to agree with him that he's going to be able to do these things, and which is I grudgingly I do agree. And the reason why I will give my reason. If you haven't noticed how this president has governed, um, there's so much power that's been allocated to him that he evades the entire legislation to carry out some of his policy. Hence, the mention of 16 executive orders, right? So he doesn't want to go through the law. He circumvents it, and here's why: the MRUP Center. Do you guys agree that this is something that's supposed to go through the House of Representatives and the Senate to get approval for that amount of money to be expensed to be built? We can agree,
Sure.
right? But he circumvented that process and pretended as if he didn't know that they're supposed to. He didn't know that this was being done. At the end of the day, he came out and put that through the State of the Nation, admitting that he is aware by default. So now I want to see what the House of Representatives and the senators are going to do to counter this thing that he claimed at one point that he didn't know about. Here's the second point: the yellow machine. He came out and said this was signed on gentleman agreement that's supposed to benefit the country. Did this get approved through the House and the Senate? No, it didn't. Eventually, everybody ended up backing up because he said this was a gentleman agreement, and nobody wanted to do anything about it. Now he came out through the State of the Nation and said, well, guess what? They are on their way. So technically, we're just accepting it. It's like you say something and you deny it, and all of a sudden you admit to it in the process. So with those two items, including the 16 executive orders, meaning this is a president who does not plan on going through the law. He's planning on circumventing that. And guess what? The power has been afforded to him to that. And he's been leveraging that to do that. So all of these things that he said he's going to do, from evidence that we've seen so far, he doesn't have to go through the law. He can just circumvent it. Just like the yellow machine and the MRUP Center that is 6 million on the hook. So I agree with him on that. Yeah.
Thank you. Joyce said the mistake that is being made here is we are comparing 6-year development term under President Weah to Boakai's first 2 years. Let me see. Evans is asking, did he mention the sexual assault cases by people in government and how he plans to curb that?
He did not mention that.
Sam Wallace said, let's see if Dennis will host a show with anyone from finance to get the details he claims he wants tonight.
No, people never want to come out and defend it. They will never come out. I can say this clearly.
Sam Wallow knows that. And when you tell Sam Wallow invite them, he will say no.
They will never come out.
We lack the proper methodology to measure job creation in private sector employment database. Smith, where does labor data come from for Liberia government? Labor Ministry. And he said, you guys wanted the SONA to be 5 hours. He also says somewhere that we claim to know everything. Nowhere in the President of the United States address to the nation are sources mentioned. It's a joke. Sometimes sometimes you wonder where is the everywhere economics counter analysis to the Liberian government economic outlook provided today. All right. We don't have caller. I want us to conclude here. I want you to deliver your 1 minute response to the State of the Union as your closing. And let me start by saying, I give mine as a summary that the state of the nation, according to the president, is stronger than before. my only thing is, we want to see actual numbers that will help us as journalists and pundits to be able to evaluate, tell us what really you're measuring. Don't give me numbers. Also, I want this thing to be more outcome based. If you even, raise the dead, just tell me what the impact of that guy coming back to life has on us. Don't just tell me that you raise the dead. Tell me the guy who came from the dead now, he will be throwing our dead away, and that will relieve the problem. Tell me something. All right. And this whole thing about we were better than before is what Councillor Tiawan Gonglo called the at least mentality. Even though we're not anywhere, but at least we're better than where we were yesterday. By virtue of our existence, that we are living people, things will get better. We're
Exactly.
growing. I never used to, things I never used to do. I do it. I look cuter now with my new hair to do. But what does that do to anybody else, right? So there will be incremental changes and improvement because we're going forward. We never used to have online presence, right? We never used to have Facebook. So as these things come, we just have to. But these baby steps are not enough. We need to do better and not always compare ourselves. The IT people say backward compatibility. We always look back to see how good we were. That's why we always say, "Oh, normal days, oh, normal day." When I was growing up, people used to always talk about, "Oh, Tottenham time. This thing was 10 cents. This one was 5 cents." But and then we now after the war, we want to always talk about normal day. Oh, when JFK was JFK, when LU were LU. I mean, or Gabriel, were even starting the show, you mentioned, President Tolbert, as good as most Liberians claim he was, that time has gone. It's been over 40 years. So we're moving forward. So forward thinking, anytime I hear that people are signing concession agreements and they are bringing investors, I mean, there are a lot of things that I can do. During President Salif time, I work with a healthcare IT vendor of electronic medical records. I talked to the CEO, wanted to take that to Liberia, but nobody in Liberia could even talk to me. Even when my friends were in government, including Amara Kone and Sebastian Moa when they were at the finance ministry. Okay, because I'm not an investor in the MI. I'm not from, maybe I'm not white. So every time Liberian government talk about investors and all these people, I say, what can we not do? The other day we were hugging Elon Musk and all that for internet. Don't you think, what is internet that we cannot, I have a young man in Liberia who's trying to build a data center for the country for himself. He doesn't have the money. Right now I'm working on some plans that can take the world by storm. But if I propose those ideas to Liberia, who's going to listen to me? Because somebody from Dodo can be invested. Mr. Carter, let me hear your response to the state of the nation. I was only rambling so that you guys can prepare.
Yeah, and Dennis, thank you again for having me here, being on this panel with Dr. Pearson. This is I was hoping that we're going to have the whole FOL team here to really, have a diversity of thoughts. But it was good to be able to espouse on some of these things that we heard in the state of the nation. For me, in as much that I want to be optimistic. I'm not too impressed. I wasn't too impressed by the state of the nation, and for several reasons. I thought the information that was presented were embellished. They were full of fluff, no substance, and I think we expected a lot from this president, and this administration, right? I think if I were to maybe offer any bit of critique to the state of the nation would be for the next 12 months ahead or 11 months ahead to December, they should focus on several items, right? One of the things I think he mentioned as well, which is reviewing the concession agreements. If you review those concession agreements, the way they were structured from the beginning, you know that we were left to be exploited on the table. So if they can review those things, put concession, I mean, put what we call covenants, protective covenants in those concession agreements, bargain a revenue, either at a revenue share level or at an equity level, where we take ownership in those, the company being established in Liberia. What if the investor taking 60%, maybe the government can take 40% instead of going at a royalty level. So including making those concessions tax reportable as well, and having people, well-meaning Liberian, to serve in management position on those concession agreements. So I will hopefully they can make changes on that. The second most important thing I will say here, one of two, is the job creation in the country. This is a country where we graduate thousands of students every year. Some have graduated for 5 years, 6, 7, 10 years, no job. That even any theoretical skill they may have theories they may have learned in school, they have since lost track of that, because there's not an economy. We're not producing an economy that can absorb this level of graduation that we're putting out. So to come out and say you're going to put out these education programs that, is looking at, graduating, I don't know how many people are training IT professionals. You got to have a pipeline to job creation. You got to have the pipeline to absorb that in the economy, right? The last point that I want to make here is something that I believe was completely left out of the State of the Nation, and that is the system on which every economy is built. That is the financial system. They did not mention any iota of information on that, or maybe I missed that as well, but I don't think that was mentioned in there. You cannot build any economy or create these jobs that you think you're going to create, the entrepreneurs you want to create in that economy, without having a liquid financial system to take risk on those people and believe in them so they can take risk and be able to be innovators in our country. You do not have the capital liquidity in our country. We don't have the number of banks. The banks are not really lending at that level. So our entire financial system, it's illiquid, right? So with that illiquidity, to say that you're going to put out entrepreneurs to do this, to create jobs, it's kind of it doesn't make sense, So hopefully they can actually look at these three things. But if you want to create jobs in the country, you want to take risk on people that are starting businesses, there got to be a liquid financial system to do that as well. Or else I can only put so much of my own money on the table. It's just a matter of time before it runs out. If it runs out, I need to be able to go to a bank to borrow to take off on the runway. So that is my take. And again, thank you, Dr. Pearson. Thank you. It was a pleasure having you here. And for those of you listening, thank you for your comments as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Before you come in, Dr. Sam Ngovo is a historian, professor at Morgan State. Says some of your panelists are anti-UP government and you present them honorably on your program. And then balance analysis, good, bad, and ugly.
Can we host him?
Yeah,
Please.
Dr. Pearson, Dr. Ngovo, I would like to invite you anytime.
Yeah.
Let's come and discuss. We really want, we are open. And he's been here before discussing history. Dr. Pearson, your response to the Sunnah.
So yeah, thank you, Dennis, for having me. So like I mentioned earlier, I think what I said from the beginning is that I'm impressed with the fact that the president was able to hold up to the task, considering previous incidences with him and his health. I'm impressed with the fact that the tradition of the whole exercise was held without any hiccup, whether it was the Supreme Court boycotting or other political institutions boycotting. That did not happen. That's some progress there. I understand that the speech did hold some talking points that is traditional and necessary. But like I mentioned throughout our conversation here, these reports going forward should have a way of showing us the impact the leadership of the government have had on the people, that we can see within the lives of the people themselves. Because majority of what some of the things that is being said is just the throwing data out there so that you can impress people, but the facts in the lives of the people are not seen. For example, you say you achieve 70,000 short and medium term jobs. Can we look in Liberia right now, and Liberians at that quantum can testify to the fact? That's a lie.
Yeah.
That's a lie. That's to me, that's a big lie, right? When it comes to the issue about the debt that the president mentioned, like the service debt in the tune of $100 million plus, I mean, that does not impress me. Then it's because, first of all, our debt between 2024 and 2025 went up by $70 million. So what I want to hear from the president, if we credit that $70 million, what did that $70 million achieve for Liberian people that will put that level of burden on the future generation or on taxpayers? Those are kind of things I want to see. Don't just try to water down the situation and get applause. So yeah, you service debt, but the debt increased by 70 million. What did you spend the 70 million on? What did we achieve with that? Because you have budget surplus, you cannot mention that the achievement you mentioning that you did from your budget is what the debt covered. Then it doesn't make sense with the revenue surplus, so to speak. So again, then another thing I want to stress here, I would like to see indicators in terms of practically how they walk into healthcare centers make a difference in the ordinary people. Are the ordinary people seeing a big difference in the healthcare facilities across the country, right? So that is a reference. But up until now, we're still complaining about the healthcare situation in the country over 2025. So what are we talking about when we're making these claims? We're talking about 800 people, taking off the street to be treated for drug situation. Drug situation in the country is endemic. So people still losing their lives to drugs. Family crying concerning drug. Can the family members of our people ready point and show us significant change that has happened in the issue of drugs? No. So I think what we want to see should be fitting to the actual life circumstances of our people on the ground. So the country is the country better in close? Is the country better off than where President Boubacar made it? I would say no. Absolutely no, right? Because if you ask me to look back where the CDC government took the economy from, it's not as bad as what President Boubacar inherited from CDC, considering the drawdown of UNMIL, the loss of foreign capital that was given to people in terms of jobs and other things that came through NGOs and other stuff. So no, I wouldn't say the country is better off. But what I would say is this: President Boubacar is actually better off. Way better off. He and his cronies are very better off. The legislators are better off. They are all million years now, so they are better off. Our people, they are not better off. Thank you, Dennis, for having me. Thanks to Gabriel and our viewers and listeners out there.
Thank you for being here. And if you just joining us, this was our post SONA analysis, and we even produced a song for the SONA.
What is the state of the nation?
Welcome to Focus on Liberia. Of the nation. On that, we're going to close tonight. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank to our viewers and even those who watch later. Whether you believe the state of the nation is stronger than before or worse than before, or nothing has changed, we are all Liberians. Have a good night.
We are Liberians.